Peach and her faculty had engineered a remarkable transition. When they began, 40% of third graders could not read at grade level. 8 years later, almost every child was either right on track or even better.
Yuma has been described as a border town. There are lots of Hispanic families, especially in our school, that work in agriculture. From time to time, they have to leave Yuma to follow the agriculture. That makes it hard on the kids. When I came to Alice Byrne, one of the first things we did was we looked at test scores.
Julie came into the school like a whirlwind.
And I said, whoa, we've got a few kids we're not including in being able to read and write and do math.
I think it was the first time the data was presented to us in a way where we thought, oh my goodness, we need to change this.
Everybody's got to test at the same time. We were going to make sure that we had 100% of our kids at grade level or above.
Very good.
There was a true message that everybody was going to be accounted for and that everybody was going to learn how to read and write.
Peach had committed her school to go from good to great.
Okay, here we go. Ready? Block.
The first thing that we did was we narrowed our focus. Okay, what is it that we don't need to teach, that we just need to push away and say, well, I may like that, and that might be fun, but do I need to teach it?
I'm lost, said Baby Bear.
And then the next step was we realized that working with kids in small groups was what made a difference.
Okay, everybody put that inside your bag.
When you teach in a small group, 5 or 6 kids, you're able to focus on individual needs, individual achievement, and give feedback. The hard thing is that when you're not successful, you have to say, it's not a matter of where my kids come from. It's not a matter of their parents or their condition that they live in or their situation. It's our responsibility. This is a non-English speaker for the most part.
Early in the transition, the school created a program of continuous assessment and speedy interventions.
Every Wednesday, teachers get together, they talk about individual students, where those kids need to be, and what other alternate interventions they might need.
And just being in small guided reading groups has helped her.
And it's really a collaborative team effort. That's the most important thing. They've got to come every day.
People often say that public schools are like industrial age factories. They're doing this mass-produced education, one size fits all.
We all agree with that? That's a really good.
Well, if you looked at our schools, it's really about customized learning and instruction.
Mainly my concern with her is comprehension.
When they're identifying which students aren't doing well or which teachers aren't doing well, they're immediately intervening. It's really about the teachers and the principals working together. And if there's not ownership all through the ranks, it's just not going to work.
Faculty and staff at Alice Byrne School had set an audacious goal. They insisted on the same for their students.
What did you learn today at school?
As with every good to great transition, momentum builds gradually. Results began to multiply. Grateful parents were soon providing recognition and encouragement. The Covarrubias family talks about school every night at dinner.
Dinosaurs were 65 million years ago.
We can see, their happiness, their faces, their joy. That's the best way we can get their smile. I'm also very thankful with the principal, Mrs. Peach, because she's always there.
Please join me in reciting the Declaration of Independence.
Holy truths be self-evident that all men are created equal.
They are endowed by their...
When I look at these principles, they say we will not capitulate on making sure that our kids learn how to read. We will not capitulate in letting our kids down that they must be able to do math. We will not capitulate and allow the fact that we face very difficult circumstances and limited resources to hold us back from the responsibility that even if we feel alone, we will not capitulate.
What happened in Yuma will be communicated throughout Arizona as leaders seek to make certain that every elementary school achieves at comparable levels.
It never occurred to us when we approached Jim Collins that there could be such a fundamental match between what he did in good to great.
Good.
And what we've been able to do in looking at schools and finding ways to improve in schools. So it's the perfect combination of methodology, of an understanding of what one can do in the future, and of the passion of Jim Collins. It's a great mix for us.
Climbing is, with my research, one of my great passions in life. And they have a link to each other in the sense that a climb is a bit like a big research project. You come at it, it's huge, it's daunting, it may take you a long time to put it together. And you break it into smaller and smaller parts and finally build the whole thing up. You go at a rock climb the exact same way, especially a hard climb.
The story of Collins' research began in 1996 as he sat in his backyard reflecting on a challenge he'd been given a few days earlier.
I was having dinner in San Francisco with Bill Meehan, who ran the San Francisco office of McKinsey & Company. He leans over his salad, and he said, "Your previous work is extremely interesting, but it has a problem. I found it depressing and useless because the things that made those companies great that you studied before were in place because they had great parents. But what happens if you didn't have great parenting? What happens if you wake up midway through your life and you had a mediocre start? Can you change your own trajectory?" And that challenge is what led to that moment in my backyard where I pulled out a sheet of paper and drew the good to great curve and asked the question, can a good company become a great company?
Collins and his team of 21 researchers embarked on a 5-year effort that included what they called death marches of financial analysis. They reviewed 1,435 companies that appeared on the Fortune 500 list between 1965 and 1995, searching for good to great